for which it
one
stands,
nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
and justice.
Please call the roll. Mr. Alcorn,
Present remotely.
Ms. Bagley. Here. Bailey. Ms. Bonke,
Present remotely.
Ms. Crystal. Here. Ms. Franklin. Here. Ms. Gary. Here. Ms. Hayes. Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Ms. Lawson.
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
Ms. Mensing. Here. Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Stork.
Here.
And Mr. Walkinshaw.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
All right. It is my understanding that Ms. Bailey, Ms. Bumpy, Ms. Lawson, and Mr. Alcorn have requested to participate remotely for this meeting due to conflicts. Do I have a motion and a second to allow them to participate electronically?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kelly, seconded by Ms. Gary. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? And we'll now move into our safety moment. Dalton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick safety moment. Walk through the building. None of our typical or primary and secondary evacuation routes are blocked or obstructed any, so our evacuation routes are clear. Just want to point out our primary evacuation route, so long as it's not blocked and it's the safest way to get out, will be through the double wooden doors towards the rear of the building. We'll go to the elevator bank is, we will not take the elevator, we'll take the stairwell down. That'll pop us out on the first floor. We'll proceed out to an area of safety right outside the transit center there. I have a couple of folks with assignments back there. Chris Henry, if you'll be primary 911. See, Karen, if you'll just be backup 911. Joe, can I ask you to be primary AED, CPR, and frankly, I will back you up from up here on that task. Again, looking around the room, just be cautious of potential tripping hazards. Make sure your stuff's tucked up underneath the desks. And with that, that's my safety moment.
Okay. We will now move to item 4, approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any amendments to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Mr. Kelly, is there a second?
Second.
Bagley, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Abstention.
You have abstention. We'll now move into item 5, approval of the minutes from December 16th. Does anyone have any corrections or amendments to the minutes? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kelly, is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Gary. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Into Mayor's comments. Welcome to the first VRE Operation Board meeting of 2023. Thank you for those who were able to join. Quick reminder that we are live streaming the meeting and there are microphones throughout the room. So please keep side conversations to a minimum. I'd like to welcome Katie Crystal back to the Operations Board as the primary member for Arlington County. Libby Garvey will serve as the alternate this year. In front of each of you is VRE's 2022 annual report, which summarizes our accomplishments. This report is also available at VRE.org. Before I turn the meeting over to James, Mr. Walkinshaw, I'd like to take a moment to touch on some of the highlights of my time as chair. What we undoubtedly have the greatest impact on VRE going forward is June's bond sale, proceeds of which are going to transforming rail in Virginia, the Commonwealth's visionary rail initiative. September's ribbon cutting at the Rolling Road Station marked the completion of a project that improves passenger convenience and safety and system reliability. And recommendation of the fiscal year 2024 budget was contentious, but was thoughtfully resolved, and thanks to the incoming chair. I appreciate the way in which the Operation Board work together to finalize a budget that ensures VRE's sustainability and growth. Now it's time for me to pass the gavel to the incoming chair, Supervisor James Walkinshaw from Fairfax County. I wish you all the best upcoming year, and of course, I'm always here to help. And so now I will turn it over to our incoming chair.
Supervisor Franklin, and thank you. Share and hopeful to
James, sorry to interrupt, but we can't hear you online.
You can't hear me. Were you able to hear Supervisor Franklin?
Yes, but now we can hear you.
Okay, all right. Okay. Try to speak up. Particularly excited about continuing our trail in Virginia. I wanted to just briefly mention 3 things that I'm this year. Responsibilities. The first, and we have an action item related to this later, is the completion of system plan. A lot of conversations throughout return to ridership and our growth opportunities and the process to develop system plans. Involvement of the operations board members is key to charting our future success. Part of that will be the second thing that I want to make sure this year is something that we discussed at our last meeting, which is returning to the tradition of holding a retreat. See on this month's agenda on the schedule for 2023, we have a tentative date, June 16th, which is one of our Friday meeting dates. Have a half-day retreat to 2 or 3 p.m. close to PRTC headquarters here to give the board the opportunity to dive into details of the system, the details of system plan 50 to make sure that we're all on the same page. And hopefully spend a little bit more time with each other and have some fun too. So mark your calendars for June 16th and block off a little bit of extra time that day. And the third thing is a governance issue that we've discussed over the last several years. It's the 60 CEO Dalton. For that says nothing about certainly my confidence.
Excuse me, Chair Walkinshaw, we're still I'm having a hard time hearing you. It kind of fades in and fades out. I kind of get the gist of what you're saying, but I don't hear complete sentences. I apologize.
All right, no problem. I'll speak even louder.
Thank you.
Sure. And I think it's important that we do that this year and establish a regular cadence of doing that here, but a regular cadence. And leading into that, our committees, as we know, are key to our success as an operations board. And at the February meeting, I'll be making committee assignments, but obviously we want to hear from you all first. So you'll be getting an email from VRE staff asking what committees you're interested in serving on. Please respond to that with your preferences. And one of the things that I'll be doing is asking the CEO evaluations committee to start working to develop a process to conduct that 360 this year. So those are a few of the things that are going to be on our plate and agenda this year. And I thank you all in advance for supporting your great work of VRE. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rich for his report.
But before that,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, this is the most important. We have a plaque to commemorate the incredible service of outgoing Chair Franklin. And as I noted, it's been just an amazing year of accomplishments thanks to your So it's my great honor to present this plaque to you. Come on. Mini version of the gavel that you. Okay, go ahead, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam Chair, for this. Forward to working with new capacity as immediate Vice Chair. With that, let's jump right into it. On the safety side, wanted to just draw attention to a couple of things. Earlier this month, we did do some training with the management team for the City of Manassas SWAT team. And that is a continuous effort that we have to continue to reach out and work with our local jurisdictions and their various, not just, first responders, EMS, but law enforcement, et cetera. So as I've said before, I'd like to bring folks into our environment, teach them, like in this case, access points, places where there could be nefarious actors hiding in and around, and just get folks familiar with what we do, and not just VRE, but also just the railroad environment in general. So we continue that effort. That continues to be a top priority for us, and we'll continue that calendar. The other thing I want to point out is over in between Christmas and New Year's, our partners at Keolis some very extensive training at our maintenance and storage facilities. And what this, the important thing here is this training, as it relates to safety, it actually tasks their operating crews, mechanical crews, with being able to react to, let's just say, not common, but in the event that there's some, like a mechanical issue or something like that with equipment, not just the technical side of resolving that specific mechanical issue, but being able to conduct said repairs or corrective actions on the railroad safely, right? So we practice that, or Keel has practiced that, and I just commend them for continuing that extensive training. This is something, and again, just with my experience, this is something above and beyond what a lot of railroads do. So I commend Keolis for that. On-time performance for the month of December, creeping back up into the higher 80s, but of course not hitting our target of 90%. You can see over the last 3 months with this graph that we have gradually improved, but still not where we're at. Or what our target is. Breakdown on this graph here, and once again, we highlighted a couple of areas from previous discussions relative to things that are more in our control versus out of our control. So those were minimal compared to previous months. So we're headed in the right direction. And the top culprit up there is congestion, and not just congestion throughout the network, but as I've said before, congestion of Washington Union Terminal. Something that we continue to work with Amtrak. Ridership, consistent with the history of VRE, if you will. Our ridership starts to dip around Thanksgiving, and of course continues into the Christmas timeframe. I will say, even for the month of December, that total ridership is more than doubled since the previous December. As you've heard me say, I believe at the commission meetings, the calendar year 2022 ridership was more than doubled from calendar year 2021. So we increased about 120%. So trending in the right direction. Average daily ridership, of course, is consistent with total ridership. But want to bring this stat to you. Wednesday morning, our ridership Wednesday morning, we eclipsed 95 million total riders in the VRE's 30-year history. So that was like a kind of a cool little milestone for us. So that happened Wednesday morning. An afterthought was, you know, maybe the next milestone will be find that person, exact person. What's that person that caused us to eclipse whatever that milestone is? Try to do something. So we have a little time maybe to work on it. But nonetheless, great milestone for the history of VRE, and just wanted to bring that to your. This is the last piece of my comments, Mr. Chair, but we did want to, I asked Joe Swartz, our Director of Government Community Affairs, to jump in here and give us an update. Legislative activities, primarily that are occurring in Richmond, and how they somewhat indirectly rate VRE. So with that, Mr. Chair, Joe Swartz.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, just a really quick update on some of the bills that we're tracking down there that go along with our legislative priorities on our legislative agenda. You remember our first state legislative priority was to remove us from the operating program that the state has and have a direct allocation. We worked really closely with Director ERPT, and the administration actually liked this idea and took it a little bit further. So there are administration bills in both houses that would take us out of both operating and capital and give us a 3.5% of the mass transit fund direct allocation. So appreciate the work that the administration did on this to happen. Bills are making their way through the committees right now. The House side, we don't think that there's going to be any issue. We don't think there's going to be any issue on the Senate side either. But actually, when I'm down on Monday for BTA, and if any of you are going to be down BTA, I have handed out a one-pager here on these two bills. And if you get a chance to talk to any of the senators down there, once this actually starts moving through the committees on the Senate side, which it hasn't quite yet, just to let them know that this is something that we were a part of, that we are in favor of. This isn't the administration doing something, you know, that we didn't ask for. The other issue, unless anybody has any questions about that one in particular.
I'll just say thank you, Joe and Kate and so many others who have been working on this. I mean, this process started, it looked quite dire. It's probably too early, certainly too early to pop any champagne, but the fact that we're on the right track is a real accomplishment. And obviously appreciate, if you can hear me, Director DeBrule's work and the administration's support on it as well.
The other issue that bill that we're tracking, there is a Senate bill to create a MBTA-like authority in the Fredericksburg area. I suspect Mr. Kelly is well aware of this. I believe the language is specific, and that they even went so far as to not want to use gas tax as the funding source. They're using recordation tax and the hotel tax for this. I just started tracking this. I don't think it's gone through any committees yet, but Mr. Kelly wants to speak to this bill at all.
It's a long time coming. It's going to be interesting. It's been a discussion along, not been a lot of local support. It's going to be interesting how it plays out, and I'm assuming it's going to be a conversation at our next FAMPA board meeting too.
Mr. Chair.
Offset, we're going to have a problem.
Ms. Bomke, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. Was Mr. Kelly finished?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just want to say that this Senate Bill 1137, we were just apprised of this at our VACO meeting, Board of Directors meeting yesterday. Supervisors and staff were not aware of this, McPike's submission. He's the patron on this. Parts of this bill are not written correctly. For example, it refers to GWRC as an authority and GWRC, or excuse me, Planning District 16. And as we know, any planning district is just an area. It has no authority as a name. There are some other areas of this bill that we have concern over. And typically these bills are created because elected officials have asked for them. But this did not come up in FAMPO, and we're trying to figure out where did this originate? So I just wanted to put that out for the record.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bomke.
Elizabeth Bennett Parker has once again put in some changes for the Freedom of Information Act, in particular a bill that would allow organizations like ours to do all virtual meetings, not just once or twice a year, but in any of the meetings that we do. We could do them if we changed our particular policy. I don't know how much support that has right now. I know the Press Association is not happy with this particular bill. That's my update, unless anybody has any other questions.
Questions online? Now, I can't see you, so. Okay, thank you, Joe.
Just two last quick things. I did want to introduce to the operations board and others. Member of the team, actually, Doug Maui, stand up.
Sure.
Yeah, he's a tall guy.
Good morning.
So joined us before the holidays and stuff, and but comes to us. Be working with Dallas Richards and his team. Comes to us with extensive program management, civil engineering type experience and stuff like that, and he didn't have to move too far. It's a Prince William County, former Prince William County employee. So we like to think that we, at some level, kept him in the family a little bit here. So, but anyway, I just want to introduce.
Thank you.
And then finally, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to again point you to the 2022 annual report. Just like there was a lot of stuff, as you guys know, going on at VRE throughout 2022. So we weren't able to capture all of it, but that gives you a sense and a flavor for all the things that we've been doing. Just want to say that at some level, none of this happens without the VRE staff. And so, but I also extend that, if you will, to the VRE immediate staff, but it also includes the NBTC staff, the OmniRide staff, and of course now our integration with the VPRA staff as well. It takes all of us, and it takes all of us working cohesive fashion, if you will, to do all the things here at VRE, not to mention county staffs and stuff like that. So when you review the annual report, have that thought in mind too. A lot of folks involved in that. But again, my hats off to VRE staff and others for a job well done. So that's the end of my report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Next item on the agenda is public comment.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Hi, Andrea Bailey here. Just briefly, just want to welcome Doug Maui to the team, and we are blessed to have you. That's all. I just wanted to say welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Bailey. VRE accepts public comments both in person and electronically via the VRE website. Members of the public wishing to make public comments have 3 minutes and should state their full name and the jurisdiction they live in. And written comments submitted before 8 a.m. this morning will be forwarded to the members of the board, read into the minutes, and attached to the official minutes. Do we have any members of the public here who would like to address the board? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, do we have any electronically submitted comments?
Mr. Chair, we have not received any.
I will move on to our action items. And first is action item A. Rich, can you introduce the item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is what we're seeking authorization to issue a GEC 8 task order to HDR for the amount stated in the resolution, plus a contingency amount not to exceed that's stated in the resolution. Just wanted to draw your attention to had an information item a couple of months ago that expanded on work with our crossroads yard master plan. As you recall, in this information item, we had this little cartoonish type drawing here. But what this authorization process is to advance, at least through preliminary engineering and some environmental work on the next phases, which would be the employee welfare building, some track expansion out there, expansion of the warehouse. And of course, all of that would be constructed in phases throughout the remaining of the decade to facilitate more trains, longer trains, all that type of stuff. But it's important for us we want to do is solidify that preliminary engineering and environmental work, get good cost estimates and stuff. So when we proceed with those projects, we're ready to proceed. So that is my summary, Mr. Chair.
Okay, questions for Rich from folks online?
None, Mr. Chair.
Any questions in the room? Okay, is there a motion?
Second.
Second.
Motion has been moved. Seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Action item B, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seek an authorization to issue a general planning consulting task order to STV. Again, for the amount stated in the resolution plus a contingency for the total amount not to exceed as stated in the resolution. This task order will include a continuation. This is actually for phase 2 element of the work supporting the 50 system plan update. But this task order include continuation of some of the work in phase 1, which should be complete by the end of January. This is just to get this task order in place so we can continue with that work. And as the chair mentioned before, a lot of this work over the course of the next couple of months will help support I'll just say some robust activity at a retreat for the. So that's my summary, Mr. Chair.
Okay, questions for Rich from folks online?
None, Mr. Chair.
Questions in the room? Is there a motion to approve action item B?
So moved.
Seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Second? Oh, that was me. Sorry. Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Action item C, Rich.
See, Mr. Chair, this is, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is seeking authorization to issue or main contracts with both of our delivery services for fuel for locomotives. Similar to what we've done in years past, the current option years expire July 1st of this year, but we'd like to have the option of exercising those options before the end of the fiscal year, so we're able to go out and purchase our forward-looking fixed price contracts to help reduce the volatility. And I'll say that in quotes because we're experiencing or have been experiencing quite the volatility. I do want to note in here, I am seeking above what would be norm for contingency, and because of that volatility And the way we envision that working is that in the event that I do need to get into the contingency, it's likely to be coupled with a discussion back at the operations board in terms of a budget amendment or something like that. But from an administrative standpoint, this authorization will take care of the contract end of it, and then the future discussion would just simply be about a budget amendment. So that's my summary, Mr. Chair.
Okay, questions from folks online?
None, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion to approve action item C?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
By Mr. Kelly, seconded, I think, by Ms. Bailey.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Action item D, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In accordance with the VRE Operations Board bylaws, I'm bringing for approval the calendar for 2023. As we look out for the year, basically the schedule for all 11 Operations Board meetings throughout the year are tracked, and do them well on the third Friday of every month. We looked at the potential conflicts with, long holidays and stuff like this. This appears to be a pretty clean year. Do want to note though, on this calendar, we did note for the month of June, the board retreat. And so, because I know many of you pass on this calendar to your assistants and stuff like that, we just wanted to flag that for you. Because it's important that we have total participation for that. We did put in here the time for that. As Mr. Chair mentioned before, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The initial concept is we would come in, we would do board's business, very matter of factly, get the business done, and then we would transition, same location. We wouldn't ask you to get up somewhere else. And then transition right into the board. So that's my summary, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Rich. And I'll just note on the schedule, we do have to have a physical quorum to take action, which we made by the skin of our teeth today. Not a criticism of anyone who's online, all of whom let us know in advance. I know there's a lot of things going on, but we do have to have a physical quorum. So if you're not going to be able to make it in person, please let us know as soon as possible. And if you can make it in person, try to do so. I know that's a challenge for folks, especially who are coming from a longer distance. Questions on the schedule from folks online? Anything in the room? Okay, is there a motion to approve action item D?
So move. So move.
Seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Action item E, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I'm seeking is, this is a recommendation by the Operations Board to the commissions to approve and authorize myself to execute a funding agreement with Amtrak.
I think, Rich, I think we lost the screen. Do we lose the screen? It's a pretty one. Yeah, it's. I just want to make sure
If
folks
you were-
online are able to see it.
Covers real quick, I'll say it's part of the plan.
We can't, I can see it, Mr. Chairman.
So just once again, seeking the Operations Board recommendation to the commissions to execute a funding agreement with Amtrak. Just going back a couple of months, we had teed this topic up with the Operations Board as part of our budget process. And so now finally, I just wanted to get a little bit into the details of this. The memo gets back into the background and stuff of how we got to where we are today, but essentially back in throughout the last decade or so, Washington Union Station, stakeholders have been developing a master plan. So not to get too much into that master plan, but outputs of that showed the need to rehabilitate this track 22 area. So what we had agreed to do is to work on carve out this track 22 element, rehabilitate this platform, the adjacent track and stuff, to give us more capacity on the lower level of the station. Fast forward to today, it is, as I mentioned, these Amtrak issues and these congestion and stuff like that. Chris and I were on a phone with quite a few folks from Amtrak at the end of December, and they equate the majority of the congestion related to VRE trains because of the lack of this track 22. So with that, just wanted to share that because of the funding arrangement that Amtrak worked out, they were able to get an FRA grant. Percent of the funds, they were able to start the work until we could work out what the local match was. So now I'm bringing you what our portion of the local match would be. And it totals about $6.5 million. Back in 2020, you did approve through our access agreement a portion of this funding. But nonetheless, this project will be completed this summer of 2023. So you're not supporting or approving a concept. It's actually something that acts concrete. So anyway, just wanted to kind of bring everybody up to date. This is very critical to mitigate not only VRE trains, even Amtrak trains, Amtrak state supported, and long distance trains as well. So this is a big deal. That's my summary, Mr. Chair.
Rich, just to clarify, so it's described as the track 22 rehabilitation project, but if I'm understanding correctly, it actually added.
So there are 6 tracks on the lower level. Over time, the platform and the track, just through the lack of maintenance and stuff like that, it's unusable.
Disintegrated.
Well, I don't want to get too descriptive here, but just unusable. They were able to use a portion of the track to do some switching of diesel engines, stuff like that. So this will actually give us not only a platform, but a full track length. It'll get us back to the total of 6 tracks on that lower level. And again, just a huge improvement liability. So.
We'll start in the room and then I'll ask folks online, Mr. McLaughlin, and then Ms. Crystal.
A quick question I have, others may have as well. The lower level, that's the level that trains come through from all the way come through to Virginia.
Yes,
correct? There's another level where the trains, when they terminate at Washington Union Station, lower levels used by VRE and Amtrak through running trains, whether it be state supported or long distance trains.
That is correct.
So this capacity is important just for the VRE trains, but for larger fluidity of other trains as we're adding them.
Thank you. So the board report noted that this had potential to increase rail capacity, and I just wanted to clarify, increased capacity is realized largely in the form of fewer delays. Does this lay the groundwork for, once the long bridge is complete or otherwise, the opportunity for more capacity as well?
I think the short answer is, as it relates to TRV service planning that we projected out in partnership with the Commonwealth, phase 2, at least up to through phase 2, additional VRE service and additional state supported service. This having this additional track will definitely enable those expansions as well. As we get beyond that, post Long Bridge, then the service planning changes a little bit, simply because now we're after more utilization of equipment, more turn trains, just a note here too, this terminal, and I know a lot of you have been at this terminal, and some of you that if I'm with you, I've tried over the years to point this out, and now to fruition. I think Supervisor Gary was up there a few months ago and I was at that. But I want to point out that there are a couple other potentials instead of, or not just more tracks, but longer tracks, right? So up there, we actually stage a couple of trains back to back on the same platform. So you can actually load a train, it leaves, bring another one up, load a train, it leaves. So it's not just track capacity east and west, it's platform lengthening north and south.
Okay, questions from folks online?
None, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm just curious, there's a reference in here to creating an ADA compliant track, and is that something certain tracks don't offer currently, or is that just to make sure that this track is in line with everything else that is already?
That was a requirement, and not that Amtrak was opposed to it, but I just want to emphasize that we're not contributing to issues nationwide, if you will, that are trying to enhance their stations. We want this with the ultimate, if not meeting the ADA requirements, even of those requirements as well.
Okay, is there a motion to approve action item E?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Seconded, moved and seconded by Ms. Crystal and Ms. Bagley. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries. That takes us through our action items. We have 3 information items. The first is VRE Transit Asset Management Plan. Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to, similar to previous years, just wanted to provide you an update on our transit asset management program. The complete report is in your packet. Just wanted to highlight a couple of things. Our transit asset management program, albeit we stood up a management program before, even before MAP 21, when this was actually required. So we've had a long range maintenance management plan. MAP 21 required agencies similar to ours to have these, MAP 21 and safety loop, but to have these types of programs, we just merged those together. So that's the history of it. Became a regulation 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But one of the largest efforts in 2022 was a requirement to update the plan. So the summary goes through some of those items for you. But a lot of good work with our consultant and our teams. And I do highlight, or the report does highlight some plans for 2023 to further integrate our organization, if you will, into our transit asset management program. Just for example, the team is working on, we're getting this down at the facility level, GPS, GIS locations on light poles and history on when that light pole was last changed out. Here say, I'm not sure we're going to track down to the light bulb yet. But anyway, some really good advancements with the previous plan. Now the plan's updated, gives us some good targets starting in 2020. That's my summary of that.
Okay, questions from the board members online?
None?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Spending authority report.
This is the spending authority report. Glad to answer any questions on here. Had a chance to look at it. It's my summary, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any questions on the spending authority report? All right, Broad Run expansion project.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is what we want. Mr. Chair and board members, we've all been around this table for many years on this Broad Run expansion project. So We gave you an update last year, but I'll take you back to last summer. We did run into some issues acquiring property on the north side of this project. And recommendation, the ops board approved that, subsequently took actions to rescind a bona fide offer to the landowner. I had told you that we would be working on what some alternatives could be. We could not get that land to the north. We have been working on that. We recently have had some discussions, not only with Prince William County staff, but the city of Manassas Airport out there, and trying to consider their long-range plans. So we think we have something here that'll work. So wanted to present that. We are socializing this with other stakeholders, county staff, city staff, airport authority, others. So without further ado, our chief engineer, Dallas Richards, and his team, and in fact, it's been more than just his team. It's almost been the entire organization trying to sort this out. So anyway, I'll give it to Dallas.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you for your time. Mr. Chair, members of the board, guests, Rich, thank you for your time. One here to speak, so I promise some brevity, but walk through this one with you. Like any project, it's based on information, and that information is subject to change and imperfections. And during the final design process, we took pause to revisit 30% design. In that pause, not just the design itself, but the assumptions to that design, all the things that we've gotten us to this point. We made an effort to look, to revisit the primary objectives of this project, which you see here in front of you. The primary objectives are the first two, right? And primary ones would be increasing train storage capacity, planned delivery of the new VRE pumps. We have 21 vehicles coming, 21 pieces of equipment, if you will, coming soon, and they have to be distributed between the two yard facilities. We need a place to put them. We do not have the storage capacity at either yard today, earlier, to store them. The second was to increase the parking capacity for future ridership. When the project was originally conceived, we were literally busting at the seams. We had more, didn't have enough parking at this facility and had been charged to get more. And so that was one of the objectives as well. The third and fourth objective was provide an alternative connection to Residency Road and Route 28, which we've been able to accomplish. And the fourth is to coordinate any future works with, for future works by other stakeholders. We've been able to do that as well. The ones above the line, if you will, that you see on the screen, the fund charge from our funding, right? When we requested the funding, these were the specific measures that we had to perform to be successful. To reorient you with the project itself, the location, existing facilities, if the pointer is working, right? So here's the parking facility, here's the station itself, and then of course, speak to those parts and pieces. Total parking capacity today, 1,077 spaces. Current parking utilization, 40% at the peak. Equipment storage, we have capacity to store approximately 58 vehicles or units, if you will, we call them, between locals and rail cars, 58 units there today. Project, we've looked at it in various phases of delivery. And the first phase would be the train storage station and the AEW building portions of the project, whereby we would lengthen and widen the yard. You can see those pieces here, which in so doing, you actually have to move several buildings to do that, which we would replace the function of those buildings with the new AEW building adjacent to the yard where it belongs. But also in order to lengthen them, you impact the existing platform, the station facility itself. So therefore you have to do all of these three pieces together, the yard, the station, and the buildings to get the capacity you need to operate the facility. And also that makes a footprint impact on the parking itself, which we've accommodated here. And this new phase would actually increase our parking to 1,140 spaces. In addition, we've added, again, not required by the funding, but a bonus benefit is a bus loop. Rearranged the parking facility itself, added a second entrance to Observation Road, a bus loop that we could serve through the facility, making safe turns and safe deliveries and pickup of passengers. Next phase, referred to as phase 2, when necessary, would add the additional parking and get us up to 1,600 spaces available in the facility. And keeping that capacity, I meant to mention on the previous slide, the equipment storage would nearly double with this lengthening and widening, which gets us to not only capacity for the cars to be delivered, but also full complement of consist in and out of the facility for future service. Working closely with the planning staff and this future vision of number of trains, length of trains, all of these sorts of things. So the next two, I don't refer to as phases, but as future projects. So not currently a phase of the project itself, but a potential future project that would dramatically, significantly increase and improve the utility. Remember, the third objective was to connect to Route 28. Through the design process, we've determined that a bridge is possible, a highway bridge connecting Route 28 Residency Road through Residency Road over the tracks. If you remember, and it's been some time, the original concept at even a 30% was a tunnel under the tracks, which is a significantly expensive cost. So we worked through the process to determine that we could actually build a highway bridge, ped bridge rather, initially. We could do a pedestrian bridge with 2 stair towers, one on either end of the track, so that if we have parking on the north, which we've since abandoned, we could then get passengers from the north side of the tracks to the south side of the tracks. That made us question, what about a highway bridge? Would it work as well? Would that be a better service? And determine basically the cost trade-off is nearly the same. So for the cost of the 2 elevators and the pedestrian bridge versus the cost of the highway bridge and retaining walls, you could improve that connection to the other side and thus eliminate Piper Lane. For those that know Piper Lane, if you've been there, anytime there's flooding, even minor flooding, it's closed. It's 11 foot, 10 inches clearance. It's pretty low. Sorry, I'll point to that.
Point to Piper Lane.
Yeah, back up one, sorry. It's not backing up. Sorry, do it. And we can back, John, can you back it up one? Oh, sorry. Back up one slide, we'll just point out where Piper Lane is, but,
Sorry.
now we know what happened. Now we know what happened.
I've had issues underwater.
It
Sorry.
is underwater. Sorry, all right, so Piper Lane. It's just off the page right here, but where Broad Run Stream crosses under the, tracks cross right here at the south end. What happened, John? Sorry, we'll keep going. Piper Lane's to the south. It's narrow, it's constrained. Anytime it rains, our passengers can't get there through that. Have to cross over observation. So this one. I offered this slide merely as a comparison. It's a rough rendering, if you will, right? And never would you conceivably build both the highway bridge and the ped bridge. This is meant to demonstrate how each of them could be built and how that they are comparable in elevation. So the major concern with the bridges going over the tracks was the runway has specific clearances at the end of the runway. And I describe it as an inverted pyramid. Imagine from the end of the runway, it's like this magical plane, a visible plane that comes off the end of the runway, and you can't penetrate that plane with any permanent structure. So we derived that the ped bridge could do that if we shortened the roof and squatted it down. So you're really working between, you have to stay a certain height above the railroad and a certain height below the runway clearances. A very small window to operate in that geometry. And we were able to determine that a ped bridge was able to do that. And then once we thought overhead, then we thought highway might be a better connection. And then finally, the piece we'll offer here in coordinating with the neighbors, right? The airport has been doing a master plan effort, much like our own in some respects. What would be their total build out? What we've looked at, and we've looked through their master plan and coordinated with closely, they want to realign Observation Road. Well, what better opportunity to realign a new bridge to the new Observation Road, connect the two of them. What I'm saying is these 3 projects have complete independent utility from one another and all have good utility. They could be done at separate times, separate budgets, separate funding, if you will, by separate parties, and all coordinate closely, so long as we design for them now. That's the 3 pieces I wanted to share.
So the bridge would connect to Residency Road?
Correct. Yeah. Which is just off the page, or if you see where pointer's not working downtown. That's okay. You can see where the highway bridge connects. There's a green line in what I'll call the 11 o'clock position on that drawing.
All right, but let's start with folks online. Ms. Lawson, certainly give you the first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to commend staff. This capital project has certainly come with a lot of challenges. And as Rich said, we've been working on it for years. And I'm just really impressed with what they came up with, considering there's some other pieces to this that in conjunction with the Manassas Airport and Manassas City's interest, which Mr. Smith and I have been communicating about, but I don't have questions. They've briefed me, but I just, again, want to take the opportunity to commend staff for their hard work and determination. And I'm just really thankful for their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson. I totally agree with you. Do want to commend Rich and staff. I think update. We have the 4 objectives and each one is critical, but VRE side of it, Rich and his staff recognize the importance of objective 4. In fact, that has on the first 3 objectives, and that is not precluded in any future works. And really, to this point, looks like no future plans for VRE are going to be negatively impacted. And I can confirm that future plans have for it. Where we are right now in our discussion and negotiation will not be included expansions plans that we may have. So thank you, staff. Wonderful job, great job on doing.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I would add, and I know we use the term not to preclude fairly often. This is not only not to preclude, but I think they complement one. There's a way that you can integrate them and make them work very well.
Okay, questions online? Else from anyone online? Anyone in the room? And just to clarify, the highway bridge would also have a pedestrian
Yes.
component.
So there's a trail that comes down the planned trail coming down Residency Road that would connect to that as well. Pedestrian component to it, but without the elevators.
Okay. Well, it certainly seems like an elegant solution. I guess the only question from VRE's perspective and timeline for this project, obviously when you add partners and players and other groups to coordinate with, there's a risk that things take longer than they otherwise would. Do you feel like there's a risk of that here that could?
I think this is very accomplishable. I think we can do the certain level of design at the highway bridge and pigeonhole that, if you will, and pass that along to partners that may want to do that later. In some ways, we've controlled our destiny a little better by reducing the footprint. It's more affordable. It's more easier to build, frankly, from our own pieces. There will be a lot of coordination with stakeholders, property owners, of course, in the county for permitting and things like that. But it feels very accomplishable, even more accomplishable than before we've tunneled.
Okay.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Dallas. All right. That brings us to Operation Board Members time, and start with former Chair Franklin.
Sure, just want to thank everyone for allowing me to lead VRE in 2022. I appreciate all you all's efforts and everything that we've done on VRE. Rich, thank you for the accomplishments and all of your staff. I really think that we're headed in a good direction. We have a lot of work to do, but I'm confident with Mr. Walkinshaw on this board that we're going to continue to inch towards where we need to be. So just thank you all. Looking forward to continuing to serve. So thank you.
I just want to pick yes, Chairman. And that's to thank her for her service and giving me confidence. I was to myself fairly new, but I'm one of the newer members. So
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Chair Franklin, for your service. It's been a great first year for me. I'm looking forward to serving and seeing this person back with us. On Monday, I'm hoping to be in Richmond to visit some of the legislators to comment on these bills that were mentioned and start advocating, for passage of this new methodology for
Congratulations on the conclusion of your service and for your installation as the best job in my experience in service, which is Chair Emeritus.
That's right.
Just want to echo that. Thank you for your service, but also I look forward to
I want to note that Stadler and myself have 3 committees, subcommittees in Richmond in the past week or 2. Perception.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, can't hear.
thank you.
That's very rarely ever said about me.
Yeah, same with me, but something with the microphones today.
So just saying that the last couple of weeks, my executive director, DJ Stadler, our chair, Jen DeBrule, or myself have appeared in front of 3 committees or subcommittees with regard to finance, appropriations, and transportation. It's been well received. We've talked about VRE and Amtrak and all the other things we have going on. So just want to note that the atmosphere down there is, I think, a good one and conducive to what we're planning to do. Really excited to see Katie Crystal.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
thank you. This is Janine. I just want to thank Margaret for her leadership in the past year. And honestly, her first 3 years in office, she hit the ground running, chairing PRTC, and then transitioned into VRE, and it was a bit unexpectedly, and she was very willing to do it. So Margaret, thank you for everything that you have poured into public transit, but specifically VRE for the last year.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Lawson.
Thank you. And I'll circle back for everyone online just so we make sure we don't miss you. Anyone in the back? Kate, Bob, Steve, no, Mr. Storr?
Just my thanks to Margaret, absolutely, and cross-border to make this quarter, strengthen this quarter's mass transit, and your leadership here is a key part of that. Appreciate that. Actually looking forward to my seat, buddy, Jim Blackenshaw. We sit next to each other on board meetings. This organization, I know we have some major question marks about where we're going and how we're going to get there. I know we're all deeply committed to that. So this year will be another of, think of our challenge of what's the federal government doing and how's it to affect about. So then, and looking forward to working with all of you this year.
Thank you, Ms. Franklin, for your service. I look forward to working more in the coming years. I do think some challenges, hopefully we regroup and move forward.
I'm going to say the same thing everyone else said, obviously, but no, we're very grateful for both of you, and it's really beautiful. Aside from the logistical differences when you change out a chair, to particular, but so many of us here are so dedicated to making sure that we serve people decisions for our localities. And I'm excited to get to know you because everyone's excited that you're back. We're just running to each other twice in 24 hours. It's suspicious. I know. So anyway, that's really it. Thank you for serving and thank you for continued leadership.
Okay, online, I'll try to go alphabetically here. Mr. Alcorn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to weigh in and thank Supervisor Franklin for her service and frankly for her quick response this morning to allowing me to participate remotely as I'm fighting off a bug. It's a great contribution to public health as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Ms. Bomke?
Yes, thank you. I want to, yes.
Ms. Bailey, I promise I go alphabetically. Ms. Bailey.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's okay. That's okay, Ms. Bumpkin, please.
Okay, I'll just jump in. I just want to echo everything else that's been said, and I want to just say I appreciate Margaret being on VACO. You seem to have a very steady hand, and I like your calmness. And then I look forward to working with the executive team. And I also just have to say, I had to stay down in Richmond because I have some other VACO business this afternoon. So I really appreciate the ability to be virtual today. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the retreat and seeing what we can accomplish together.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bumpy. Ms. Bailey, you get the last word.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I did what Ms. Bumpy just said. I had an unexpected meeting down in VACO in Richmond. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for your patience with us and for your reminding us about the quorum. I do respect that, and thank you so much for that and for the adjustments that were made. And to my colleague and friend, Ms. Supervisor Extraordinaire Franklin. Very honored to work with you in any capacity, and you are an extraordinary chair, and we appreciate your leadership both in VACO and on the VRE board. Wish you well. And to my colleagues there, I do miss having bagels with you this morning. Have a great weekend, everyone. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Without objection, meeting adjourned.
Gonna have a new city attorney, which is like, you know, kind of. I have chaired, I've actually. And like, over the last year. Sure. But it definitely.
That's what I got. I said, I don't know.